this brother has a lot that he has done in his life, like so many of our brothers, but he actually started off working as a production assistant for a gentleman who is responsible for films like Barbershop, Men of Honor, and Soul Food, little movies like that. And I just want to honor that person. He was a production assistant for George Tillman. And then with that experience, he continued to work with George Tillman on a variety of projects, including music videos. From there, he went on to produce other music videos, some for some, like not big budget, some low budget music videos, but then he went on, but he actually ended up working as a publicist with Grammy nominated music producer, Steve Silk Hurley. He became the director of A&R, and I just discovered what that means. It's artist and repertoire. So you've probably seen, any Motown movie that shows you Berry Gordy getting people ready so that they can perform and be like, on top of their game. That was him. And he helped set up offices in the UK and Japan for a variety of artists. Soon after setting up those offices, he started JWS Productions, which is now called London Town Pictures. And I'm going to let him share some of the projects he's created, because I know you're like, well, who is he? Who is he? The person we are talking with today is filmmaker John Wayne S. III. Welcome, John.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I greatly appreciate it.
Oh, it's a privilege. So first of all, before we get into the questions, and I just want you to know, I can't wait for this conversation. Is there anything that you'd like to share with the listeners to help them get to know you better?
I am brother, son, father, filmmaker, Whovian, producer, director, and writer.
Okay, what was that word before director?
Whovian.
What is that?
Whovian. I'm a big Doctor Who science fiction fan. So there's a British series called Doctor Who that has been coming on since probably like black and white television. It is the longest science fiction running series. And I have been a Whovian when I discovered it at 7 years old on PBS when I was a child.
I'm just learning so much. Excellent. Okay, a Whovian. All right. I think you may be my first Whovian that I've interviewed. So this is awesome. All right. Well, let's go ahead and dive in, because there's so much here. What is a favorite song or movie, either for right now or all time?
So I can give you two songs and two movies, and they're very different, distinct. As far as songs, the one song that I really love is Huey Lewis and the News, Jacob's Ladder. The reason why I like that, there's a lyric in the song that says, all I want from tomorrow is to get better than today. And that is my focus every single day. My second song is The Sounds of Blackness, Optimistic, because it is such an empowering song. Every time I see it, I feel like things are just not going the way I want to. I turn that song on, and it just pumps me up and just emotionally drives me to do whatever I need to do. As far as films are concerned, there is two. One is called Yentl. This is a movie back in, I think back in the 80s, Barbra Streisand. It's about a young girl who wanted to learn the Torah, which is the Bible, back in the early 1900s, Eastern Europe. But it was a no, you didn't do that. But her father told her in secret. When he passed away, all the people in the village was trying to encourage her to get married, have kids. And she's like, I didn't want to do that. So she cuts her hair off and goes to, impersonates a little boy, a young boy, and goes to school. But she gets into this love triangle because they think she's a boy. Yeah. She gets a love triangle with this guy who's very knowledgeable about the Bible. And she's intrigued by him. She falls in love with him, but she can't really tell him that, that she's a woman. He falls in love with another woman who he can't marry because his brother committed suicide. So it's like a misnomer. You can't, the family wouldn't let him do that. So he convinces Yentl, he convinces her to marry the woman so he could be close to her, which he does. They never consummate the marriage. But the story is really about the possibility of no one can tell you what you can do. Nobody can tell you what's important to you. There's a song in the movie called Where Is It Written? Where's it written who you are? Where's it written what you can do? This at the end of the movie, when she finally comes to America and she really finds out what she wants to do, one of the songs is A Piece of the Sky. a lot of times people are so focused on just getting a piece of the sky. She said, why get a piece of the sky when you can have it all? There's enough for everybody. There's abundance. I know that the media and the world kind of makes it like there's only so much. We don't really have to be fighting with each other. We don't have to be trying to grab for resources. There's enough for everybody. You know, the other movie is Malcolm X. I've seen lots of 3-hour movies, but I've never seen a movie that's so captivating, so well written that there's never a point in the movie to where I am bored or I'm kind of like, you know, how you look at 3-hour movies and there's some points that's not good. That there's no place in that movie. It is so intriguing, it's so insightful. It's so powerful as a Black man to see somebody transform from one thing to another, you know, to something much powerful, you know. So those are the movies and television that I service in my own soul every day.
Wow. Okay, first of all, I am familiar with the movie Lentil, not because I've watched it, but because I really do enjoy Barbara Streisand. I've always loved her movies, but just when I was looking at it and the whole scene, I was like, I don't look like something I want to watch. So I've never watched it, you
Really?
know?
Yeah.
Yes, and now it's going to be on my watch list because I don't, you know, like I just didn't trust it. I've already I like her movies. And so, you know, that one just, you know what I thought it was? I'll be honest with you. I thought it was something about wartime or I don't just from the poster image that went with it. I just was like, I don't even know, but no.
No,
But
it's
now I'm gonna check it out.
it's a strong, empowering empowering women to do what they want to do. You know, it's very topical for now, just women stepping out and having the opportunity to do the things they want to do without a man telling them what they can and cannot do.
Yeah.
This is very empowering for that.
If you could only watch one of those films, which one do you hold on to?
Yentl.
Wow.
The reason why is because I'm very big, and just because of my music background, I like the integration of music into movie. And it's a very integrated, you know, she's Barbara Streisand, she sings a lot in the movie, but to integrate the songs with emotion, you know, I think that filmmaking is a very powerful thing, especially when you include elements. You know, there's a reason why you use certain colors, why you use motions of camera, all those things to evoke certain types of emotion. And so she does it very well as a director and also as an actor, and in a film she does.
So, well, let's talk about favorite childhood memories. What is a moment from your childhood that is like all-time favorite?
I remember one day my father was walking me home from kindergarten. I remember this. And we're walking, and I don't know what we were talking about, but he told me that my name was John Wayne Stevenson III.
Mhm.
I didn't realize that. And when he said that to me, I stopped because, you know, I'm named after him and my grandfather. And he told me that at that particular moment, I remember it. And it's such a solace place in my memories of child, because that name gave me in some place purpose. It gave me something to be really proud of. And so I just remember that time, him telling me that, and I stopped and I looked at him, I said, what did you say? And he told me what my name was. And I was like, it just empowered something inside of me.
Mm. What was it about realizing you were the third? What, because it implies a certain already there relationship or view of your father and grandfather that it would be so meaningful. What did it conjure up for you that it stood out like, what? Whoa.
I think it was the idea, and I look at a lot of things when I go through, I think it's the idea of almost like, I'm just not here by myself. I have two other very powerful men holding me up. You know, that my ancestors, you know, and my father, my grandfather are here. Whatever I'm trying to do in life, their energy and their power is invoking me to do whatever I could do. So it's almost like that invitation from the universe saying that this is your opportunity, that anything that you possibly want to see and do, this is what's going to really empower you.
Man, that's a powerful thing when you know on whose shoulders you stand, right? And so that you not only had that knowledge at that age, but also the certainty of that. And it kind of says a lot about you that at kindergarten, you process that as so powerful, you know? So yeah.
I've always been a pretty focused, know exactly what I want to do and the direction I want. I'm very blessed at that.
Well, let's talk about, speaking of purpose, accomplishments. And I asked this question in two parts. First, what is an accomplishment that means the most to you personally? So, I know that's probably going to be, it may or may not be hard for you because you got so much to choose from. But also then, which accomplishment is the one that when others hear it, it's the one that's most likely to get the, or wow. So let's start with that first. Which accomplishment is the one that means the most to you personally?
I'm gonna say, before I say it, I'm gonna say this, and I don't want to sound like a cliche, but I had a child. I waited till I got married and had a child, so I was like 35 when I actually did have a child.
Okay.
I didn't really think that I was ever going to have kids. The fact that I was able to be blessed to have a child, that's a very big, because I just didn't think it was in the stars for me, to be honest with you. Secondly, a lot of who I am is about what I do, what I bring out to the universe. So a lot of my work as a filmmaker is very personal to me. When I start out in entertainment, I didn't really have a mentor per se that I could go to and really talk to. I had to kind of like figure a lot of stuff out on my own. I know I have people I kind of throw some stuff at, but they weren't really mentors like I can go to them and really kind of, bare my soul and kind of tell them what I'm trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that I'm able to do that to filmmakers, where people come to me and say, "Hey, what do you think I should do?" That is very endearing to me. I think about the fact that when I was coming up, if you wanted to know something, you had to read a book. And the thing that this generation does not get that we have was that we have aha moments. In other words, you read a book and you get to that, oh, but while you're getting it, before you get to the aha moment, you're retaining all this other information that you would use later on. So filmmakers will come to me and ask me a question about something, and I'm able to spur it off. So how do you know that's like, I must have read it somewhere. I've retained that information. And I really hate that they don't have that aha moment where they kind of go through. If you want to know the distance from the earth to the sun, just go to Google. Google asks you. You don't have to remember it. It'll always be there. But if you have to read and try to find that answer, all the information that you will absorb up to that point will be inside of you. And so I'm able to give that to other young filmmakers. I'm able to give that insight to them, to where they just normally would not, be able to get it from somewhere.
Okay, so I want to make sure I'm following, because I hear two different things. So one is the one of the accomplishments that means most to you is your capacity to and ability to mentor others.
Yes.
But then I also hear that inside of that, it's not just the general idea of mentoring, but something about, and this is what I'm looking for clarity on, because you're pointing to being able to provide, and I don't have language for what you're describing. What is it that you're able to impart as a mentor? Because there's something that you're really proud of.
Well, I can't give them the aha moment because that is very generational, because our generation they look at all the videos, but they don't really read. So I can't give them that. But the information I do have inside of me, I can offer up to them.
I see.
So those moments where I had aha moments, those moments where I've read or retained this information, although they're not going to absorb information the same way I did, I at least have it and it's in my DNA. It's in who I'm person. I have somebody to give it to. It'd be a shame if I couldn't. It's almost like Rosie Perez in White Man Can't Jump. She has all this information in her head. If she had never got on Jeopardy, she would never been able to release it into the universe. So having this information and to be able to share it, and then being, at the time reading, not really knowing, I'm reading this book or I'm experiencing this, I don't know how that's going to help me, but later on, the process of being able to, release it back out, it's beautiful.
You actually helped me see what younger people are doing. It is distinct from our Gen X, and we, have all these ahas, and we are used to combining information in new and interesting ways. Mm-hmm. But what I just got, though, is what they do, because I do this too, is they go down rabbit holes. And so whereas we would get the aha building up, they look up the distance from the sun, and then they see something and they go, wait, you measure it how? And then they look up, what's 6 sextillion? Oh, and wait. And then they go, and then they end up learning other stuff. And so I love, I've been in a lot of conversations about how our generation looks and goes, eh? But then from their generation, it's different, but it's not that there's something missing. It just looks different, right?
Yeah, they just process information differently. And so how they get to those moments, they can have those aha moments, but it's just a different process.
Exactly. Yeah. So let's talk about the accomplishment that is the one that gets, or wow. Which one is that for you?
I think the one thing that I think that people get the aha, I am a creator. I bring things into existence. And when people come to me, I'll be at a meeting or a pitch meeting, or I'll be at a meeting somewhere, and people will ask me, like, we're trying to do something about a pen. And I could sit there and come up with something right then and there. The ability to be able to create just out of nothing always amazes people. And it's like, how do you do it? So I don't know, just the way my brain is, it's created, the way I process information. So the ability to just come up with stuff, I try not, when people come to ideas with me, I said, wait, let's set up an appointment, because if you say something to me, my mind is going to start, releasing information.
Right.
And I try not to do that, because once it goes on a tangent, then it wants to go all the way. So I try not, let's set an appointment. Let's talk about this at another time. If not, my mind's going to start working. So the ability to be able just to create out of nothing, it amazes me sometimes that I come up with stuff. And people always say, did you just come up with that? And I'm like, yeah, I just came up with that. And they be like, wow, just how do you do that? And it just who I am as a person.
Mm-hmm. Is your experience of creativity kind of like there is this source of ideas and projects, and then you just kind of allow them to come in, or are you more of a process for your own projects?
I live a life of purpose.
Okay.
And living a life of purpose is that I put myself to be an open vessel, so things come when they're supposed to. I cannot force the creative process. If somebody comes to me and they want me to do something, I have to be in this space to do it. Being a producer is the business person who's kind of pushing everything on. Being creator, being a director and a writer is kind of like they want to go all the way, and the producer's kind of putting type on it. So I have a pretty good thing of balancing all those into one thing. But when it comes to being creative, it's really just me being open to the process, and things just kind of flow. I don't try to force things. I'm a firm believer that whatever's for me is for me.
Any creative hearing that, I think it will affirm that is just part of the process. And it is something a lot of times people don't realize, like they stumble into it, but how great is it to hear it and then just know that, right? So thank you. Let's talk about words. What is a favorite quote, saying, metaphor, or book?
Stay focused and determined. That is the mantra that I live by, and I tell people. Matter of fact, every morning when I get up and go through social media, and especially on Facebook, because they give you the notifications of birthdays, I go to everybody who has a birthday that I'm friends with, and I say, happy B-Day, stay focused and determined. Because it is something that everybody can use every single day. It is my way of connecting with people I may have not spoken with to sometimes, that we became friends, whatever the case may be. But you really don't know what people are going through. And the responses I get back from people, sometimes like, I really needed that, or man, I'm really trying. It is something to kind of push them through. Myself, my daughter calls me, because I'm always speaking inspirational. She calls me Captain America. She's like, hey, go Captain America again. I'm trying to say something encouraging. But sometimes I need encouraging too. You don't know. You really don't know what people are going through. And just those small words of kindness to get them to keep going is sometimes what gets people out the bed and keep them from doing something that could be really destructive in their life.
Mm, mm, mm. Nothing to add on that. That's so true. How did you come across those words?
It's who I am. I'm focused and I'm determined. In spite of things I've gone through in life, I am focused. I'm determined. I went to, some years ago, I was trying to find a producer to help me produce a film. And I went to this guy, and I'm like, he really could help me. He said, I'm not gonna be able to help you. He said, but you know what? I know for a fact that you're going to get this movie done because you're very determined. And I got off that phone call a little bit like, he's not going to help me. What, you know what? Why he not going to help me? And as time went on, I realized he was right. He was right that I was going to do, willing to do what I need to get done to get it done. And the movie got done.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Well, now I'm going to ask you about some of your experiences. Not that we haven't been talking about that all along, but a little more focused. Mm-hmm. What is a conversation, moment, or event that either changed the trajectory of your life or it had a significant impact on your life?
I remember years ago, I'm originally from Chicago. I had talked to this woman at this production company in downtown Chicago about coming on as a director. And so we talked on the phone, everything seemed to be really great, and she seemed to be like, she's like, come on down so we can do the whole, it was kind of like, I'm gonna bring you on, just come on down. Mm-hmm. So we go down to the office and I go check in the receptionist and I tell her, John Wayne's here for, this woman. I sit down. A few minutes later, a woman comes out and she walks to the reception, said, I thought you said John Wayne was there. And the lady said, he's right there. She was a white lady. She looked at me and I looked at her and I realized this was not going to happen because she assumed I was a white guy, So she goes to kind of show me around the production company. And the only minority they had was an Asian guy working in the tape department. Mm. And I realized right then and there that this was not going to happen. I realized that in order really for me to get to where I need to go, I need to kind of make opportunities for myself. Before I was behind the camera, I was in front, I was an actor. Mm-hmm. And I went to go audition for, this is gonna really tell my age. I went to go audition for ABC After School Special.
Okay.
A lot of young people don't know what that is. But
just came home at 3:30. Look, let me just tell. We came home at 3:30. Some of us were latchkey's kids, or if your parents were home, whatever. 3:30, you turn on TV, and it's a show that's specifically for young folk and teens. And everybody was like, "Oh my God, yeah, tonight on Thursday." Okay.
So I went and auditioned for the ABC After School Special to this casting director. It's a Black woman, and I still know her to this day. And I did my monologue and she said, it was really good. She said, but you're not Black enough. And it messed me up. I think I was about 19, 20 years old. And you telling me that I'm not Black enough. What does that mean? I was confused. And it took me through this whole journey of what being Black was. But what I realized at the end of the day, one, nobody can define your Blackness. I'm Black 24 hours a day. You can't. There's nothing you could do there. But also, too, I had to be really solid within myself and figure out what my purpose was. Because she could have told me that, and that could have really took me in a really bad direction of really trying to figure out stuff, So I realized that sometimes people say stuff and they don't realize the impact that they have on people, not because they're trying to do something detrimental to them. But it's just that they're just going through their process and they didn't really know. So it goes back to my whole stay focused and determined. You don't know what people are going through that particular moment. And so me as a young Black man, impressionable, you telling me I'm not Black enough. This other person is telling me, oh, you're a good director, but it's clear that you're Black. You can't work here. That has a lot of impact on you. But I realized there's one thing. Tyler Perry did this interview some time ago, and I was asking him about if he had any mentors and everything when he started, and he said no. He said, but he realized that nobody was coming to save him. Nobody was coming to save him. And so if he wanted to do the things he wanted to do, he needed to just take the opportunities and chances. Jordan Powell, after he did that first $1 billion movie, he said the thing that Hollywood is missing is the opportunity for Black filmmakers to fail. We don't get an opportunity to fail. If we do something that is not good, that is pretty much, you're known for that project that did not work. But other, groups, they can have projects. I'll give Stephen Bochco, great film, television. This is a show that people don't really realize. And the network stayed with him for a period of time. He did a show called Rock Cop. It was an opera television series where they would sing opera in the hood. All the characters singing opera. Yeah, you don't remember that because Stephen Bochco is all about the bigger things he's done. They don't talk about Rock Cop. Just look it up, Rock Cop. They canceled because who really wants to see a television show where everybody's singing opera?
And did you also say in the hood?
Yeah, it was Urban the Police slamming people and the guy on the car singing opera and then the other guy up his singing.
On television.
Yeah, it's on television. Yeah. But he was able to do that. It didn't work. And they still gave him other great, opportunities afterwards. So if I had to come did that, I'll be known as the guy who did Rock Cop and You're Never Going to Work again. So we need the opportunity to fail. We need the opportunity to support it. Other filmmakers to keep the lesson amount of opportunities we fail, but we need the opportunity. Some things just don't work. I've written things on paper that when I went and try to do it, it just doesn't translate very well. Doesn't mean I'm a bad writer, or doesn't mean I'm a bad director or a producer. It just does not translate really well. And we just don't get that opportunity.
On TV after that. And I hear you on, that opportunity to fail in so many careers. And one other thing about just that answer, what you shared, I like the juxtaposition of those two stories, because I think it's an experience that doesn't get talked about a lot. The experience of not being Black enough here and you're Black over here. You know what I mean? Personally, I can relate to all of that. And I know it's not just you and me. There's so many people who are not your traditional, and here's what's ironic. In many ways, it's the media, which was not directed by Black folks, who give us a sense of what it is to be Black, right? Isn't that something ironic that there are those amongst us who are African American who will say, well, that's not Black enough, but where did you get your idea of what Black is, right? And we don't even realize that we're judging one another on someone else's standard, which is like, huh? So anyway,
it's the narrative. I think about the one thing about the history that our kids are taught. I'm not going a whole bunch in critical race theory, but the history that our kids are taught. So our kids are taught that pretty much they started at slavery. That's how they're taught. And so they taught that Black folks at a particular time were, they were dumb. They couldn't read and write and things of that sort. But you have to think about this for a moment. It wasn't the fact that they was dumb or they couldn't understand. It's just that wasn't their language. So obviously they're not going to be able to read and write a language they're not familiar with. And if I go to Mexico and I can't speak Spanish, it doesn't mean that I'm dumb. It just means that I don't understand your language. I don't understand your culture. And so if you tell the whole story about something instead of this part, then people say, oh, they're not dumb. It's just that they didn't understand the language. They didn't understand the culture. And so if you tell that story, it is a whole different conversation.
Well, I'm gonna have to jump in on that because it even more so the way we talk about somebody talking Black or that kind of, we think of it as urbanized or ghetto. And the thing is how did that come about? Well, because it was actually forbidden for those who were enslaved to be taught how to read. So all of their trying to learn the language of this new culture was entirely by ear, entirely. And Southern ears, you know what I'm saying? Hearing Southerners talk about it for the most part. But in any case, it's like, I love what you're saying about understanding how did we come up with these behaviors that are then classified in a derogatory way, right? And then we live like that's the truth. Like you got to talk. I've seen so many interviews of entertainers who have talked about, they're college educated and they from the North or from wherever they're from. They got their regular old diction, how they speak. But especially in the early days, to get on TV, they had to go with that. We don't know what she talking about. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So anyway, yeah, absolutely. You've kind of touched on this in some ways in your answers to that first question, but what is a moment or event that in some way signifies or highlights your experience as a Black man in the United States?
I guess really I have touched on the fact that me trying to seek opportunities, and I was talking to this one producer some time ago, and I sent something over to this network and the guy wasn't responding. And so she went and called over to them and to talk to them. And she basically told me that the guy was a little bit intimidated by me, which I thought was really weird because he runs like a really big network. So why would you be intimidated by me? A lot of times we can be our own worst enemy. He's a Black guy too. And it's kind of like, I'm not trying to come to disrupt what you're trying to do. I'm trying to make you look better. I'm trying to bring something that could help you look better. But a lot of times we're so afraid thinking that somebody's going to come and take this little tiny piece that you think about this. When somebody gives you something, they can take it away. I think about the whole idea with the voting rights. People talking about, oh, they're going to take it right. If they can give you voting rights, they can take them away. They only can take away what they give you. And until we understand that we have to empower ourselves and make things for ourselves, create opportunity for ourselves that no one has given us, then I think that we'd be in a better position. But if we always look into what somebody's going to give us something, the way the power structure is in America, particularly, and in the world in general, Black folks in general don't really control anything. We don't have neighborhoods. We have places where we live. We don't have neighborhoods. We don't have economic structures that belong directly to us, you know. So when we go sit at the table, we're sitting at the table mimicking whatever they've given us or mimicking whatever they've done. We don't have anything like certain ethnic groups might control. I'm your example. I did some commercials for a hair care company some years ago. Matter of fact, it was the first national spot for hair weave I did for this company called Jenny Co. They're based in Atlanta. It's a Korean company, really great guy. And I did a couple of commercials for him. Now, this is all marketing to Black folks. But the Koreans, they kind of they cornered the market on Black hair.
Yes,
how did that happen? How did we create spaces within our own community to where people are able to come in and do that? If I go to most big American cities, they have a Chinatown. They have Spanish area where all the signs are Spanish. There's no place in America where everything is based around Black folks in their neighborhood. To where if you wanted to go open up a business there, you need to go to talk to the community and say, hey, I'm this type of person. Can I come in your, and they have right to say yes, no. I don't think I could go open up, if I decide I want to open up me a shop in Chinatown, they're just not going to let that happen. It's not going to happen. When we can figure out ways or understand what our power is, which I think was just a fear to a lot of Americans, that when we really understand what our power is, we're going to be unstoppable. It's in our buying dollar. We all decide tomorrow that we're not going to drink Pepsi and Coke. We're going to drink Brian's soda, the Black guy. That's all we decide. We're only going to drink Brian's soda. The power in just doing that. I don't know. There's only one event I could think of in my lifetime that Black folks were all together, all levels and generations, is when Black Panther came out. I've never seen where Black people, no matter what generation you come from, we're all got behind this idea of this fictional place. It's not even a real place, fictional, but we empowered it. Wakanda forever.
Wakanda forever, baby. Yes.
And the thing about it is, although it's a Black cast, it's a Black director, and they really kind of like, it's about being the possibility. It didn't belong to us. It doesn't belong to us. So if we can do that for somebody else, why can't we do that for us? The only thing I can kind of really think of that's kind of small like that is actually Malcolm X, because a lot of the investors were Black. Oprah, Michael Jordan, they all invested in Spike Lee's movie, but it was still owned by a big entity. We can do that. There's enough of us around and key places to make those things happen. Why don't we do it? Is somebody keeping us from doing it, or are we keeping ourselves from doing it?
I think it's a little bit of both, honestly. As it happens, 2 guests prior, I interviewed a gentleman, Tyree Bindum, co-founder of BlackDemographics.com. And, I knew about the Tulsa. I knew there were various cities, like, in my mind, it was like 4 or 5 places that were Black economic powerhouses that were targeted and disrupted and broken apart. What I didn't know was just how extensive that was.
Yeah.
And then that happened. And then with desegregation, it just, that was another thing that took that apart. And so there historically is, there's a reason that it doesn't exist, right? And at the same time, going forward, this is quite an opportunity now that things are once again so much more decentralized to do exactly what you're talking about,
Yeah.
right? And so, there's always a new opportunity to create that. And this is one of those times, should we choose, which, by the way, is when I'm going to say patreon.com/365 brothers. Yes, I did. If you enjoy hearing stories about brothers, which I hope you do, which is why you're watching, then, support it like with cash. I appreciate all the notes that I get. I appreciate all of it. I appreciate your continued listening, and some help with her. So, well, let's talk about law enforcement. So what have been your experiences?
To everything, every foundation is really what keeps anything hold up. Police was started just by the whole idea of people rounding up slaves to try to, to get them back to their masters and everything. So you have a system that's created on something that was very negative. I don't know how you move past that. Now, people have the whole thing of defund the police. I don't necessarily think that we need to I think we need to reorganize how we spend the money, resources for police, but I don't necessarily think we don't need, because it's become very negative. When you say defund, it makes people think like we're not gonna have police anymore. They needed to come up with something that's a little bit more that made more sense about what they were trying to do. Not defund it, just reorganize how they spend the money and things of that sort. Even if the times where I've gotten stopped by police, even when the person is Black, you kind of want to look in their eye for some sense of like, hey, don't you know me? But they seem to sometimes cross over to that other world. And it's like, you put that uniform on and now you become a whole totally different person. How does that, what happens? What is the indoctrination to become a police officer where people feel like they transcend something else? I tell people all the time, at the beginning, no matter what my feelings about life or anything, I'm Black first before I'm anything, before I'm a father, brother, son, I'm a Black man. And as being a Black man, unfortunately, when I go and do anything, Cedric Entertainer had this standard routine where he talks about going to a concert. And he said that this is how Black folks go to Black people go to a concert. He says, when white folks go to the concert and they get their ticket, they say, I hope nobody's sitting in my seat when I get there. When Black folks go to a concert, they say, I wish somebody would be sitting in my seat. We're constantly, you laughing because you know that's true.
Yeah.
We're constantly in a situation where we're constantly confrontational. Mm-hmm. Everything is a struggle. When I get up and go somewhere, I go to and it's like, wow, man, this is going to happen. I'm in a constant struggle of what could possibly go wrong. I can never go into something with that 100%. It's always what could go wrong. If I go to a meeting with somebody, if I approach somebody, it's what could go wrong. Now, I don't know, and this is a conversation that a white person could ask. I don't know what that equivalent is to make them understand our plight. For example, when women talk about pregnancy, they try to compare it to appendicitis, or they compare it to getting a tooth pulled for men so they can kind of understand. I'm not a woman, so that's what they use. But what is the thing that I can say to a white person to make that understand? What is the equivalent to where if I say this, you go, oh, I get it. And if you can have that moment, and we can have those things where they can, I get it, then I think that we will have a different approach to life. Black and white folk are a lot alike. The only thing that separates us is just cultural differences and just, traditions. We pretty much are the same. I'm gonna give you a good example of that. I remember where I was, and I was overhearing this conversation. These two white people were talking to each other about this event they were going to put on with some of their friends. And so they was having this event like a month or two later, and everybody had to put in money to rent this place. And so they started talking about how in the past when they've done stuff, people don't want to pay their money on time, or when they don't pay their money the day of, and stuff like that. And so what happens, it causes other people have to do more. And when I'm listening to that, I was like, wow, white folks got to deal with that too? You know what I'm saying?
I do. I do.
It's so, we have so many similarities that if we actually talk to each other, realize like, man, there's good and bad people in both of them, you know, but we don't talk to each other. We don't really embrace really true experiences. And so when you meet a cop, he comes with all these especially white one, all these preconceived notions about whatever he thinks. Subconsciously, even if he's like saying, I'm not racist, but subconsciously it's automatically, you know, I'm dealing with the fact there's a traffic stop. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know this person, you know, even I read their plates, I really don't know what's really going on in that moment, you know. So it is in one of my first movies I did called Red All Over.
Okay, wait, hold on.
Okay.
You still didn't tell me a personal experience with the police.
Well, I'm speaking in generalization. I don't really have anything personally necessarily I can.
Okay, so you've only been stopped for like a ticket and nothing. Yeah.
Yeah. So
okay, so tell us about Red All Over.
So it's about gun violence. It's about both sides of the gun violence issue. The tagline is, before you choose a side, understand both. So when you see on television when somebody has shot another person, especially the young people, usually the pundits will demonize the young woman or man who did it, and they should be underneath the jail. But most young people don't get up and decide to shoot somebody. That's not something they normally do. There are a lot of events of things that happen, and in his particular case, his mother was a recovering addict, his father was an alcoholic. The young girl, she shouldn't have been at the park. Father's a single dad. Though those worlds joined to each other in a variety of different ways to where they kind of, made things happen. But a lot of times people don't really try to understand the other person's point of view. They just assume their side, their the way they look at stuff is the way it is. And it's just so different, And if we just spend a little time just trying to understand what other people are going through, just those moments, I think that we would really understand.
Because you asked that question, like, what would it be for white folks to understand how Black folks feel, right? When you were talking about that, I was like, well, what would be similar? And, I walk all the time as I'm training, and I'll tell you, there's this look that some European Americans get when I'm approaching, especially since I switched from wearing hair to wearing wraps that have like an African pattern. And there's this like, oh God, is she gonna talk to me? Oh my God, like, is she safe? Right? And so, and so what I'm thinking is if they could, if you could get how often, even if it's not you, wink, wink, but your friends, your family, like, that as soon as they see a Black person, there's this whole tension that happens. That tension that you feel, that's exactly what we feel, not knowing what you're going to do, how you're going to look at us, what you're going to bring to this conversation, this interaction, right? And I don't know. I'm going to try that out and see. I'm playing with that.
The fun thing about that when you say that, and I would like to have this dialogue with somebody before, a European person. I want to have this conversation with them. There's no history of Black folks attacking white folks in the masses. Okay. There's no history of that. Okay. There's a history of white folks attacking Black folks. So I'm confused. Your frustration and your fear is misplaced because I'm confused. What is it? What am I? What is it that I'm enacting inside of your DNA that make you want to do that? Because there's no history of that. But I can show you books, movies, TV shows of your people have done a lot of stuff. So where's this frustration coming from? I mean, where's this fear? Fear what? What are you fearful of?
We don't want to worry about the police, not you.
Yeah. And,
right.
And so if people say all the time, you go into a Black neighborhood, you got a white guy walking in the middle of the hood, he is probably more safe than I would be. Because they're not going to bother him because they think about all the things that come with that. So I'm confused. Your fear is misplaced. It's not logic.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Which is a perfect transition into this question. If the United States was a woman with whom you could speak, whether she's a mother, lover, stranger, neighbor, friend, you choose. If the United States was a woman, what would you say to her?
Why don't you love me? What did I do to hurt you? And if I did hurt you, how can we move past it?
It's not just the words, it's the tone, the cadence, the curiosity, the clarity, the desire for a new start.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love all that. Thank you. Yeah, I'm in just what you said, I'm just present to the possibility of love. Like that's what's there in the background of what you said is the possibility of love.
I want to love you. I want to be proud of you. I want to go, and if we have a common war or an issue that we're dealing with, I want to be there for you. But when I do all that and you come back and treat me so wrong, just tell me why. You know, I love this country. I understand the uniqueness of this country to other places, you know.
Oh yeah.
But I understand America is the center of, liberal and, rights and, people being there, human rights, people being there for each other. But if America was a woman, this woman has cheated on me, beat me up. She has not been honest with me so many times. She's giving me reason not to be faithful. She's giving me reason to break up with her. She's giving me reason not to want to do anything with her, to get a divorce. But I come back still. I try to show you love. I try to show you empathy. I try to show you understanding. America is like a narcissist woman. And no matter how much you try to explain to her that, can I just have like a little something for me? Can you just give me? I think about, I was having this conversation with going back to Ukraine war. The president has, although he's gonna bring up 100,000 Ukrainians here, he also figured out how to give them $1 billion.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think every Black person is like, well, I need to say this, like, damn. I mean, really, I am heartbroken about what's happening over there. But it's like, man, here you go helping somebody else, and we can't even get like can you give us just something that makes me say that my country do love me? It's the holidays, Christmas. You're going to give me a really nice gift. And I could always say, you might not give me nothing else ever again. But I was like, ooh, look at this nice gift they gave me a long time ago. I can't even say that. I can't even say that. But you still want me to support you. You want me to fight the wars. You want me to love you. You want me to go do things for you and stand there, stand with the flag and pledge allegiance. You can't even give me a nice Christmas gift or a nice birthday gift. You can't can I just get some one time?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they see it that way.
I responded to this essay. I wrote this essay that, it was on, what it is to be an American. And I talked about how we're a nation of immigrants, right? But as African Americans who descend from those who were enslaved, it's like that seems to not include us because we were forced immigrants. And just the fact that we continue to say descendants of slaves, not like there's anything wrong with it, because that's not our shame, but it's like it takes away when someone says a nation of immigrants, somehow we don't include ourselves because we were forced immigrants and no one else does either. And yet we contributed like wholly to this nation. And here's my point. I love the way you said a narcissistic woman, because, and wanting a divorce, but never leaving. And we're not leaving because our name is on the title, right? Like it's our house. This is our house. We co-own this house, and you act like it's your house.
Yeah.
But it's our house.
Emphasis
I ain't
on
walking away from my
our,
deed. Go
emphasis
ahead.
on our house, our.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know, whether my name is on deed or not, I know my blood, sweat, and tears help make this house. So no, I ain't leaving. And yes, I'm gonna defend it. But we gonna have to work something out because we both gonna stay in this house.
Yes. Yes.
Right? So let's talk about love. What is a um, moment that exemplifies love and something in a non-familial setting?
I think love is accepting people where they are. You know, if you really want to be there, somebody, you know, if I want to be there for a mentee, if I want to be there for my producing partners or my writing partner, understanding where they are. When I work with other creatives and other creatives bring things to the table, in order to be creative, and I mentioned this before, you have to be in a certain space. And I know sometimes people are just not in this space. Like I remember doing I needed some songs for a movie, and I went to this guy who's a very good songwriter and arranger, and I needed to be some really kind of upbeat type songs, and he was having issues with his daughter's mother. He just couldn't do it. He wasn't in that space to do it, and so I had to eventually go to someone else. But instead of just kind of like okay, fine, hang up the telephone, I kind of stood in that moment with him and talked to him about it. You
Mm.
know, in that moment, like, okay, what are you going through? I know you can't. I need this right now, but I know you can't do this now. But let me sit here in this mess with you at this moment, and let's talk about it. Let's talk about how we can move past that, how we can do that. And I think a lot of times people are so in a rush to try to get to what they're doing. Because I do it all the time. I make movies and television show. That's my drink. It's not yours. So
Mhm.
I don't, if I come to you with something, I can't expect for you to jump exactly what I'm doing, especially if you're in another space. But
Mhm.
sometimes just being with someone or whatever they're going through and being in that moment with them is a way to where I feel like I show love because I'm not so much concerned about what I need from you. I'm
Mhm.
trying to be there for you at that
Mhm.
particular moment.
Mhm. Mhm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I get that. This question is one just for this season. I really liked it.
Mhm.
If you could spend 5 hours with another Black man, whether he's living or dead, who would it be? And what would you do or what would you talk
If I could spend a moment with a couple of hours with someone, it would probably be Marcus Garvey. And the reason why I say that is because he had the whole empowering go back to Africa movement. I want to understand what was Black folks' argument to not doing that. Considering the fact they were more closer to coming from Africa, they have very clear distincts of where they came from. What was their argument? And if understanding their argument, how can we use that to empower Black folks today? What,
about?
what was what were they saying to him to say, no, Marcus, we don't want to do that? Or even just empowering ourselves and the things he did to empower ourselves. Do those tactics, those things, those systems still present itself today? Or are we just so far removed? When we I think about this all with integration. Coming from Chicago, Chicago is very a city where everybody lives in their space. You
Okay.
know, everybody lives in their space. And I remember there is a street, 87th and the Dan Ryan. They put they had a Jewels, really humongous big Jewels, there, a grocery store.
Okay.
It's like Kroger, so they had these big
Yeah, because
grocery.
when you said really big jewels, I was like, what kind?
Yeah,
Okay.
and so they had a big grocery store, but it really was nothing else around there. And so some years passed. It was in the Black neighborhood. They built a Home Depot.
Okay.
Now across the street was a guy, a Black guy who owned a building company. He sold wood nails, get all the stuff from there. But they built this Home Depot, and we all were like, "Oh my God, we have arrived! They built the Home Depot for us. There, we all good." As if we wasn't getting nails and wood from somebody else. But once they got there, he stayed there for quite a bit of time, but he just couldn't survive because he couldn't
Yes.
fight that machine. And I think in the process of us being integrated and allowing things into our community, we lost our sense of community. Because really, honestly, the truth of what really happened is that we were working in their neighborhoods, taking our money back into our community. And the problem was that their businesses were failing. because we're taking our money out of their neighborhoods and putting it in ours.
Oh, yeah.
They since we couldn't go to their stores, they weren't thriving. They said, well, we need to do something because we're going to go out of business because our dollar is not circulating. So let me put this facade of like, you know what, we want to help Black people, Black communities. So we're going to put these businesses in here that I know you guys want to go to make you feel that we're trying to, no, you're trying to get your Black dollar away. You're trying to get the dollar circulated back into your community. You know, and now our community, the dollar doesn't circulate. It just doesn't, you know. You see all these memes a lot of recently, how people like talking about why you don't support my business, and they show the business like, because you think my price is too high, things of that sort. It is okay for people to go buy a candle at Target for $10, but you want to take that $10 and buy a candle from a Black person. Why is that? Why? It's a candle. It smells good. Probably even be better because somebody handmade that candle, but you won't do it. Why? Have we been brainwashed that much that we don't see our stuff as value? I just don't get it.
I think that is part of it. And I think, not that you asked me, but I think that, you know, I talk about this a lot in economics with my students, and I tell them that, you know, the whole thing about advertising is the American way is you're not good enough, you're not cute enough, you don't have enough, you're not cool. And you have, like, that is embedded in everything. That is how you must feel about yourself, because if you do not feel that way about yourself, then you will not give your money to us who can solve your problem and make you cool and make you acceptable and make you cute and make you this and make you that and blah, 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 blah. And, you know, and I teach that inside of just before we go into how to save your money and how to invest. And the thing is, though, is, you know, we think that lynching had a lot to do with crimes, right? Violent crimes, and that's why Black men were lynched. And that did happen, but it was mostly economic. Ida B. Wells, when she started being a muckraker about lynching back in the early 1900s, it was because she had two friends, male friends, who started a store for other Blacks because Blacks couldn't shop at the white store. But then when they started spending all their money at the Black store, those brothers were lynched, right? And that's just one example. And so, you know, there's always been a want for our dollars. And, you know, but I think this is another place where we can also find commonality, like you were talking about, John, which is if we actually talk to one another, we would see, like, you go to some of these small towns and white folks are feeling just as put off by Walmart and Home Depot and Starbucks taking the money from their communities and from their small businesses, right? And we actually have that in common. And if we all got together and saw that we were all being, you know, like shrunken down, maybe we could actually fight this animal. Or at least, you know what I'm saying? Like empower ourselves as small businesses. But again, we ain't even talking to each other. We don't even see the similarities. And then on top of that, you've got what you're pointing to as well, which is that we do see oftentimes, it's not even that we're trained to see our own products as inferior, it's that we are pummeled with an understanding that the big guy stuff is superior.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So we live in, you have to also remember the society, this is not even Black or white. When they first started this country, the people who can vote was only landowners. So if you didn't own land, you couldn't vote. So it's not about Black and white. They figured out a way, that's how to, you know, get us from not talking to each other. But it's about the have and the have-nots. The people who have don't want you to have it because they feel like, you know, if you take it away from me, then I'm not going to be able to exploit you. So it's really not a black and white. Poor people are poor, regardless of what color they are. And there's more poor white people than there are Black people. They've made it seem like all Black people is poor. We've taken all the resources away.
Yep.
We're only 13 to 15% of the population, though they say.
Yeah.
So how could we be absorbing all of the resources. People spend a lot of time working against their own self-interest. And, I think about when they had inside one of the provisions, the coal miners would get the surviving spouse would get like this check. They would send them money. And then they changed some things because they were pushing a change, and they took that away. And so all of a sudden these women weren't getting this supplement, and they didn't understand why. It's because you're pushing for this agenda right here, and you don't understand it. It's working against your own self-interest. So you don't want, I'm confused. You don't want the money? It's helping you, but no, we don't want it. We don't want to accept that. Now you ain't getting the check, and you're like, man, that's wrong. They took the check away from me. You voted for it.
Right.
Don't work against your own self-interest.
Yes. Oh, that's a whole man. So now that you and I have had this conversation, what did you get for yourself, or what did you learn about yourself from having this conversation?
A lot of times, actually, people ask me questions that I really don't ever think about. Like you asked me the question about America, if she was a woman, what would you say? And I never really thought about that. And so when I can say things, when people ask me questions to get insight, it provides me the opportunity to short express, to say, I didn't think about that, and it make me put my wheels creatively and just in general, just intellectually, in a space that I traditionally do, because I don't really get, although I do a lot of interviews, but these philosophical conversations, I don't get a lot of those. Now, I'm a news junkie. I love news. I probably look at news, if it's not on Sirius in my car, CNN in my car, or is it at home, I'm looking at news 24 hours because I like information. I like to understand how people are doing. But when you have this information, you don't really get a lot of time to, say your point of view about it. So these forums, and this particular one has given me an opportunity to be able to at least kind of express those ideas about society, and then, my whole journey within itself.
I love that. And thank you for being willing to share so much of yourself, and to have this back and forth, and share your life experiences. And at the end, I'm always left with a particular impression of each brother. And I got to tell you, early on, I like the phrase just dropped right in, which is unrestrained visionary. And it was like, I was like, that is just who this brother is. I think it was like a second or third question. I was like, oh my God, unrestrained visionary, that your mind is free. Like, that is exactly what how I saw it, was unrestrained visionary. But that's really the same. That's just my way of saying a completely free and open mind, but not just free and open like to receive, but free and open and willing to push out something that the rest of us can consume, so that we can likewise have our aha moment, so that we can likewise grow and see things that we haven't seen, and synthesize our experiences. So I just want to take a moment to thank you for the art that you create, and thank you for inspiring our learning, our growth, our freedom of mind. And so, thank you. Freedom of mind. Mwah! That's you.
I'm gonna tell you this one last story, and I usually we talked about all this stuff, and I didn't get a chance to express this. This is kind of like really the moment when I realized that I knew what I was doing in life was what I was called to be, that I was living a life of purpose. Okay. Back when I was in the third grade, they don't really do this now, but you remember this. You had a topical popular song, and then you do assembly program. So your class would go up there, they play a song, and then they're like, whatever it is. So my song was the stylistics, People Make the World Go Round. So when they got to me, it was like, what you want to do when you grow up? I said I wanted to be a film producer. So my mom got me a slate and got me this Indiana Jones hat. And so I remember that in third grade. Years later, I was working on a music video. I was sitting in the back of a van doing some paperwork, and I remembered that assembly program in third grade. And I realized that I'm doing something that I said I was going to do in third grade. And at that moment, I realized that I'm on a direct path to where I'm supposed to be. It was very clear. It was very clear where I was going. I knew it was going to be difficult, but it was very clear where I was going.
Before we go, just reminder to everybody that you will find links so that you can connect with John Wayne III. John Wayne S. III. You'll find links in the show notes, so please check him out. Check out his creativity, his expressions, his project.